Welcome to Swiss Impact with Banerjis. I'm Svetlana.
And I'm Ben.
In Season 2, we will be traveling around the globe, out of Switzerland, and bring amazing leaders from businesses, thought leaders, political leaders, of course investors and experts.
We're working at implementing and realizing all the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, better known as SDGs.
And they are also making profit.
Hello, I am Amina Gurib Fakir, and I'm the 6th President of the Republic of Mauritius.
My name is Parvati, and I'm a musical artist and the founder and CEO of Parvati Foundation.
I'm Michael Lichtenstein. I'm an entrepreneur here in Liechtenstein. I'm running on one side a financial services company.
You know, hundreds of deals a month. We are seeing more things happening in this impact world. And this is because, look, the world is changing.
So join us to discover impact investing ecosystem.
See you every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Central European Time at Swiss Impact with Banerjis.
See you on Friday. Act with impact.
Good morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone, and from our viewers from Far East. Good night.
Welcome to Swiss Impact with Banerjis. And today is actually the week 7 of season 2, where we talk with global leaders, policymakers, expert academics about impact investing and impactful businesses. Moreover, we want to inspire with our show and raise awareness on impact investment, and not only awareness, but that you get into action for our planet and for the people living on that.
So before we start today, I just wanted to mention that in the memory of my sister Joya, who passed away a few weeks back, we started a project called Project Joya, which is to support people in India who are suffering from COVID. But our support goes mainly to people living in villages, in the underprivileged or poor people. And presently, a lot of help from all around the world is going to India, but very little is reaching the poor people in the rural areas. So please, if you can support us in any way, you're most welcome to support us. And you can read about it on the website. If you go to camomile.ch, that is camomile.ch. And if you look for Project Joya, you will find it. So all your help is most welcome.
Absolutely. So please get into action already now. Just help if you can. And I'd like to also mention our course, which we had yesterday, 2 sessions. It was amazing, profitable business with impact. We had people from US to China, of course, in between in Europe. So it was really great. And keep watching when is the next date of the free webinar, where we teach you how to create a business which generates not only high returns, but of course, social and environmental impact. And you can always find this information on camomile.ch or at impactinvestingschool.com.
Exactly.
Yeah, Ben.
So,
what do you have a story for today? Let's not break the tradition.
Before I start with my story, I just wanted to say that we have also a follow-up course, which starts, I think, next week.
Exactly.
25th and 26th May.
Right.
So it will be for 3 days. So for those who want to join it, you're most welcome to join it. It's the same, going to camomile.ch. And if you look for the project event, Profitable Business with Impact in Action, we really go into detail. So the first day will be on impact investment, business setup, SDGs, and the business processes. On the second day, we will do the business structuring, fundraising, and investment process. And the third day is a special bonus session.
Yeah, it's about successful fundraising and successful pitch deck. So if you want to nail some good impact investors, you must join. So pitch deck, and it's really like a magic transformation which you're going to experience with your pitch deck.
So
enough of the course now, right?
So story for today. So I want to talk about my favorite topic, of course, many of you know, is climate change. And I have been busy in this sector more than 2 decades, or basically more than 25 years. So I can as well say nearly 3 decades.
You're just 25 years old. So how can that be?
Exactly. As long as she believes that, it's fine with me. So I want to talk about the tipping points. So it seems that we have a tendency of thinking in linear terms. So all our plans, everything works on linear terms. But nature, unfortunately, does not work in linear terms. Nature works with tipping points. So
please explain that.
So
because humans tend to say past, present, future, like everything happens.
Exactly. So nature, you keep on destroying the Amazon. For example, if you take Amazon forest as an example, you keep on destroying it. The average size of per plot keeps on reducing. It is already now down to, I don't know, 17 hectare or something. Once it reaches the 5 hectare, there will be a complete crash, and within a year, the whole Amazon will disappear. Same happens with, if you look at the mammals like elephant. We are killing them, and we are poaching them like anything. And when it reaches a tipping point, suddenly from one year to another,
no more elephants.
No more elephants.
No more this. If you don't know who is elephant, to remind you guys, they are so amazing animals.
Yeah, and this is what
everyone knows who's elephant.
Exactly. So this is really how nature works. I was reading the report of Peter Geiger, the chief risk officer of Zurich Insurance Group, who mentioned at the Davos this year January, that, for example, a mass methane, when a methane comes out, a mass release, it will cause an irreversible ice melt, which will raise the sea level with nearly 30 meters, and this will be unstoppable, unraisable. So these are the tipping points we are talking about.
And actually, economy also has tipping points. I think everyone remembers subprime crisis and any other financial crisis, which also happens like bam.
Exactly.
Not gradually, but really big and at a time.
So that's, I think, the issue is that human psychic and economical theories is something which our economists, in my opinion, still do not understand. And that is the reason why they fail to see or predict one crisis after another hitting us.
Yeah, and this is why you were able to predict with, I think, 100% accuracy some events happened since 1992.
Exactly.
You're like great predictor.
That is true. It has always been accurate, and I have been, So, but I think the trick is also to taking more variables in your calculation. So, coming back to the topic of today, if you look at the low carbon solutions in the market, this is also approaching a kind of market tipping point in the key emission sectors. So we found, for example, solar wind energy, which used to be terribly expensive in 2015. The last year, if you look at 2020, 73% countries, already the solar wind technology has crossed or has beaten the new ones, the new fossil fuel investments by GDP. And by 2030, the planning is that the economic pull will be towards 75 to 90% of the power production. So in this way, not only we will have cleaner air, but more jobs for everybody in this sector.
Yeah, right. This is why it's so important that the investment in climate solutions need to be scaled now, in this decade, and not in 50 years.
I mean, this decade, for many reasons, and I think most of you know it. But when coming back to the power, because today's program is on the power,
Power.
Not that power.
No, not that power. Which power?
It's the power generation. So if we talk about power generation, we focus mainly on power generation and storage and electricity network. This is where both our focus goes. And apparently we need 0.75 trillion USD every year. And also to improve this sector to a carbon neutral sector. Plus, this sector, the power generation sector, causes 25% greenhouse gas emission. The last report I was reading on this is that low carbon electricity delivers greenhouse gas emission reduction in the power generation alone, which is underpinning decarbonization for 60 to 80% of the energy systems. So the key is to combine the market potential with policy support, because that is what we are missing. So among all sorts of simulations and incentive policies, standard regulations, my favorite is putting price on the externalities. I read a report which said not only we do not calculate the externalities, but by externalities, I'm mainly talking about the CO2 emission, the use of water, the use of land, even use of oxygen. So these should be taken in the price calculation and in the policy making.
Right, and I want to quote here our friend and one of our honored guests of last week, Her Excellency Professor Dr. Amina Gurib Fakim, who is the 6th president of Mauritius. And she is not just a politician, but she's also a scientist in the field of biodiversity. What she said is that nature gives us every year over $100 million US.
100 trillion.
Sorry, trillion, 100 trillion US dollar. Billion would be not enough.
Yeah.
Of course. And if you measure that, that is the input of nature to our livelihoods.
So I'll just try to conclude before we all bring in our guest.
Where is the guest?
Yeah, exactly.
Please stop.
So what?
That's your
what?
Story. It's too long today.
What worries me personally is that there seems to be a disconnection between democratically elected governments and their voters. So if you look at Germany, where I personally have an opinion that Merkel's wild thirst for coal power station and diesel car, despite of what the voters are asking for. I also read an article where it said that the Republican politicians and the Fox News, despite of what they are saying, 80% millennials and Gen Z Republicans want US to prioritize developing alternative energy sources.
Yeah, we want it. And
worse as the baby boomers. We are I think, Republicans. I'm just talking of the Republicans at this moment. So in my personal opinion, especially since the last few years under President Trump, science has been pushed out of politics and decision-making power. In fact, we seem to have a kind of anti-science sentiment being mentioned by many global political leaders. Whether it's in the field of climate change, whether it's in the field of biodiversity, this has to stop.
This has to stop.
Yes, but sorry for my speech. Now we welcome the guests.
I completely agree with that. And this is why we are here also to help to raise those issues, what Ben was telling about. So now with this, I'd like to welcome our guests. And where are they? Our guests, please come in. Arne Kollandsrud.
Hello.
Hi, Arne. Yes, hello. Daniel Brühwiler, welcome. Welcome, guys. Great to have you here with us. I will give a short introduction about you before we come to questions. So first, Arne, you are the CEO and owner of Tidetec from Norway. Yeah, and this is a country when Ben's friend Liv Ullmann and his favorite fish dish called lutefisk.
Yeah.
He asked me what it is before he actually became vegetarian because
and don't forget the aquavit.
And of course the aquavit. Right. For those who know, this is kind of alcohol, right? I never tried myself. So it's a country having one of the innovative companies in the field of renewable energy generation. So Arne is also working as a CEO of Tidetec since 2013, and he is also co-investor in this company. He has been member of board in Tidetec since his father, Per Kollandsrud, I hope I pronounced it correctly,
that's perfect.
founded the company in 2000. And Arne also represents family office Kollan AS, the main shareholder of Tidetec. Arne is also co-writer of the book called Innovasjon praksis, which translates to practical innovation. And when Arne is not working at Tidal Power, what do you think he does? He's playing on the trumpet. How cool is that? Welcome, Arne. Thanks for joining. And our second guest is Daniel Brühwiler, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Global Strategic Capital AG. He's our old friend from Zurich, and he has hardcore banking experience. So 8 years of head of investment management in Credit Suisse, 8 years head portfolio management in Bank Vontobel, 4 years CEO at Bank Pash, 7 years CEO of Global Strategic Capital, which launched the first solar fund in 2008.
I don't even want to ask his age now. I'm just still calculating it in the back body.
But he not only proven that you can make money while doing good, because his fund is amazing. It outperforms nearly all the indexes and most traditional funds. So Daniel, you will reveal your secrets how you do that during the show. For now, welcome to our show. Thanks for joining.
So first, we just wanted to start off with some general questions to both of you. One was that in the issue of renewable energy, most of the public opinion or most of the people think it's a supply driven. So that means, in other words, we only have energy, especially when you're talking about solar energy, then from the sun. When you have sun, you have energy. In case of wind energy, when you have wind, you have energy. One way of counteracting that is, for example, energy storage or with demand-based energy, like geothermal or hydrogen. So what is your opinion on this?
Whoever wants to start.
You can start.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you very much, Ben and Svetlana, for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to this. And back to your question, yes, the intermittency of power production is a big challenge, and as you mentioned, hydrogen, etc., is one of the things that could solve it. But still, you have every energy transition is a cost. So if we could have more renewable, predictable production, it would be a great benefit. So I would like to talk a little about that also. So
Daniel, what about you?
I would like to differentiate between energy and electricity. So electricity is not a primary energy source, it's a secondary energy source. Why that? It has to be produced. And there are different ways. When we talk about renewables, you mentioned that the geothermal energy, solar, wind, and also hydropower. And you mentioned the storage. And there are a few ways we can store electricity. So, for example, flywheels, batteries, pumped hydro, or hydrogen. And actually, around or more than 90% of electricity is stored by pumped hydro. And from my point of view, there's a huge potential to develop hydrogen, green hydrogen production.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you mean by flywheel?
The largest flywheel plant is in New York, and it's a small part of electricity storage. But they tried it there in New York. It's on Staten Island, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Arne, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, Tidetec has developed some turbine solution for tidal range application, and we are also into storage. And I think in the not only in the future, but right now we are facing a big challenge to meet the demand situation. And so it won't be only storage to solve it, or only electrical cars and adjust the charging schedules, etc. But I think we will also need other kind of resources, and into low. We are looking very into low head hydropower storage schemes, so that we can at scale have a storage and at high efficiency. So it's a very interesting topic, and we think we can combine it with the offshore tidal lagoons. So
okay.
So it's a very interesting and very important topic, I think. It's a lot of talk about levelized cost of energy, LCOE, but we should also talk just as much about levelized cost of storage, so LCOS. So that's another part of it.
And what do you mean by levelized cost of storage?
It's a way
to say, if you use some terms which not everybody knows.
I had warned them.
Yeah, okay. LCOE, levelized cost of energy, is let me explain. It's a way to that when you can compare like solar and wind, the cost. So you take the whole lifespan of a power plant or whatever, and you can so that solar has a LCOE of a certain level, and then you can compare it directly with wind. For instance, a tidal range installation that lasts for 100 years, or a hydropower station has a 100-year lifespan. So to be able to compare it, levelized cost of energy is a term that is most...
Okay.
We got it. Thank you for explaining. The second question is about jobs. So I've heard that actually renewable power and transport will create 35 million new jobs in this decade. And will that be at the cost of job loss from the fossil fuel sector? Or maybe not?
I mean, this is one of the points which I think a lot of politicians are talking about. What is your personal opinion, since both of you are in the renewable energy sector?
So a very interesting example is going on in Switzerland. So Switzerland will import about 1,600 hydrogen-driven electric trucks from Hyundai over the next 4 years, and companies like retailers like Migros or Coop will use it to distribute the goods, and that means a lot of new jobs will be created through that.
Okay.
But not at the cost of fossil fuel sector, you think? So it will be really in addition, not just
difficult to say.
People from this sector will be fired and then they go to the renewable energy sector instead.
It's just about the application that in this context, the trucks which will be used here in Switzerland. And this will create new jobs regarding the supply, the maintenance of these trucks, the fuel stations. This will create new jobs without taking away jobs from the fossil energy sector.
Okay. I mean, Arne, I think it's also a question for you, because your country is one of the amazing countries. So you made your money, your wealth and everything from fossil fuel, but you are also the most advanced in electric. I mean, your electric cars, the Tesla and everything, your network, your everything is far ahead of the rest of Europe. So how did you manage that balance?
Let me go back to the oil and gas industry. When we 5 years ago, we were struggling having engineers in our team because the wages, the salaries were so high because of the fossil fuel market, and now everybody is wanting, all the students, all the engineering competence are looking into renewables. So we like to say that in Tidetec we combine the best from the subsea industry and also the hydropower industry. So I think in our case I think that it's more that the fossil fuel market is, they are just adapting into renewables, and so the same engineers, they can. The important things is to use the existing competence from oil and gas and convert it into new innovative solutions in renewable. And that transition has started really. It has passed the tipping point, to use your expression, Ben.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, yeah. So when you look, there are no more oil companies. They are all called energy companies, for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
Same company, but they diverse.
If you call it different way, it doesn't mean it's not there. It's
No.
some people using sustainability for impact investing, or vice versa. If you call blue chips sustainable now, they are still blue chips. They don't create a true and in-depth impact. So it's I think it's very important that we
Yeah,
address this question. And
I forgot to warn you guys. We have a hardliner here. So,
okay.
so and I wanted to ask a personal question to both of you. Do you think that we as mankind or as a humanity will achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement by 2030? I just want to know both your personal opinion.
I believe it will be difficult.
And Arne?
I think we can do it because when I referring to the tipping point, but I haven't studied it that much, but I see this tipping point feeling now that something great is happening, and much thanks to the financial market is now has totally changed, and I think it will speed up drastically. I'm working mainly towards UK, France, and Asia, but mainly in UK we can see the net zero carbon emission revolution is happening right now. So from top and also from bottom. So I'm positive, but I'm optimistic. Well, I guess, Daniel, you know more about this than me, so I shouldn't say too much.
Good point. I think we have to differentiate between carbon dioxide and methane hybrid. And methane produces much more, we talk about factors, greenhouse gas emissions. And now certain studies point to this point that we would have a much greater impact to tackle that one, methane hybrid. And about 1/3 comes from the oil and gas industry by flaring. That means that when you produce oil, a byproduct is gas. And if these companies don't have the infrastructure to deal with that, what do? They just burn it. Or even release it directly to the atmosphere, and this is something which is much worse regarding greenhouse gas emissions and carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, I don't think we can achieve that. I'm also more. We can maybe do something about it, yeah, but there are so many external factors which I think are not in our hands that I don't think we can achieve the Paris Agreement. And I see personally, of course, a lot of things are moving capital, but it's not enough. We are not doing enough. We could do much more.
No, that is true. But then it's not in our power. It is in our power.
It's
because
both,
if we can
external
change, we can change.
And also our power. So if we really want hard to achieve the Paris Agreement. I mean, it's my personal opinion. You didn't ask me. I'm
exactly.
sorry.
And the last general question to you, my personal opinion is, or idea is that there's huge amount of hidden subsidies in fossil fuel. And I think that's one of the reasons which is stopping investment focusing on renewable energy. Do you also think the same? Because this decreases the incentive or the motivation of investors to invest in renewable energy because of these subsidies. Would you agree to that, Daniel?
Absolutely, yeah.
I agree. And if you look at in the North Sea, the subsidy for investments are so high because of the high tax. It's in my eyes ridiculous that oil company can lower the tax by investing in that field, lowering by about 80% or something. When we working with renewables, we have to deal with much lower soft funding, etc. So it has to be. I think from the Norwegian side, you mentioned maybe you'll have the Norwegian financial minister in your program, and you can ask him. But but they are looking into this now. So it's a very strange result of the high tax. Then they also get a very high return from tax of spending. So they spend an awful lot on not viable
energy production.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, a few thoughts from my side. Over the next couple of years, we will have more people on our planet, and also on top of that, the per capita consumption will increase. That means we need more energy and also more electricity when we switch from fossil fuel-driven cars or combustion engines to electric engines. And from my point of view, we have a huge leverage when we do that more efficiently. Energy efficiency, for example. Just an example, if you use standard bulbs, they about 90% of the energy goes into heat and only 10% into light. And if you use more efficient LED lights, for example, we have just a tremendous impact, an immediate impact. And there is a huge chance from my point of view in building efficiency, logistics efficiency, all these kind of things.
Okay. I mean, that's one of the things we also read, that when the economy goes up or the GDP goes up or the population, or like in China, when the lot more and more people come into the middle class, with this growth, also the energy output grows. And somehow there's only 2 countries which has been able to break that although the population is growing, the energy is going, is UK and Finland. Apparently they are the only 2 countries which somehow managed to, the rest of the world still doesn't. So that's what you, Daniel, mentioned is very true, that I think there's a huge gap which we have to catch up. So, okay, now we go to personal.
Yes, Daniel, we will start with you. Question to you. And I already mentioned that you are actually running one of the most successful funds on today's topic, so renewable energy green tech portfolio fund in Switzerland. So can you please let our audience know what does your fund do and what do you mean by renewable energy? And it's a very wide topic. So where is the focus of your fund, like energy storage, hydrogen, solar, whatever it is? So please tell us, but explain in the words that also non-financial people and non-professional investors can understand.
Okay. So first of all, thanks for the compliment. But look, it's
not a compliment, Daniel. This is a fact. Your performance is amazing.
There are a lot of other good managers out there. We are just one of the managers out there. But so what do? We invest in companies which develop and provide technologies to fight climate change, like renewable energy, but also green technology. What do we understand by that? For example, the hydrogen sector, fuel cells, building efficiency, logistics efficiency, waste management, recycling, refurbishment, water services, these kind of things. Yeah, we invest in the companies which provide the solutions. What we don't do, we don't invest in the companies which apply the solutions. This is also important, but we don't do that. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you, and what do you mean by renewable energy for your definition?
Renewable energy means a few things. For example, solar technology, wind energy, geothermal energy, also hydropower. These are the most common sources of renewable energy.
Daniel, and why did you set up this fund? Like, did you have any mission in mind, or was it just to make some good profit, as you have such experience in the banks? So what's your mission?
Daniel, be careful. You may be walking into a trap here.
No traps. It started 2008 when we launched our solar fund, which still exists within a renewable energy fund. And I always was interested in that. And together with the team of the company, we decided to do that. And yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
then
thank you.
we go to Arne. So Arne, you set up this company which is producing something amazing. But the thing is, when I was a kid, and that was quite some time back, we already knew about tidal wave energy. We knew that tidal wave energy is that the tides come in, you have put turbines there, you create energy. So this whole idea, this whole thing is quite old. So what does your company do which is very unique? So if you can tell a little bit of your history and your company's history and the product, why is the product so unique?
Yeah, let me take the history. My father, he founded Tidetec. He was doing some working with the quartz things and industry up in the north of Norway, and they wanted to build a bridge there, and there was lots of currents in that area. So he said, why don't you make a energy bridge? Put some turbines into it, just as you experienced when you were 10 years old. And he was working on all kinds of product developments. I grew up making prototypes in the workshop at our home, and he always was having these ideas. So he started looking at energy bridge. Is that possible? And then he went to France. Studying the Lorentz tidal range, tidal barrier project, and he realized that they are only producing energy in one direction because they use run-of-the-river turbines. So he went back home to Norway and started drawing, and then he actually patented a turnable turbine that were just as good in forward as in reverse mode. So that was the beginning of the company. And then 10 years later, I was still playing my trumpet at that time, personally around, but I was really fond of this idea. And then he asked me, he was getting older, and in 2013 he asked me if I wanted to do something with this. And I got an expert team that could rely on it and make develop further through a EU-funded Eurostar project, and that gave us the proof of concept, etc. So we had the model turbine, and we realized that we could increase the power production in such power plants by up to 30%. And then we saw that this is really something. In the beginning, I was a bit skeptic. But then during this Eurostar project, together with Munich University and UK partners, we realized that this is really can kickstart this market. So and now we are working on that, preparing a pilot, etc. So the short story is that if you can capsule some water where it is high tidal range, large difference between low tide and high tide, and then you can keep the water when the tide is going down, and you can let the water through turbines, then you can generate just as a run-of-the-river hydropower plant. But then you can hold it, and then you can let the water back through the same turbines. That's why we call it two-way hydropower. So did you get that?
Yeah, no, I got it. But the thing is, why didn't anybody else think about it? Because this is quite old. We are doing more than 50 years, at least I think.
Yeah.
That's also, it's a very good question. And my father was actually quite surprised when he got this first patent. Mm-hmm. They have been thinking of this in when they built in 1967. They built the Lorentz power plant in France. They took the turbines they had, that was so-called Kaplan-Bulb turbines, and that's what they used. They work very well in forward mode, very poor in reverse mode, but they tried to adjust them, but it failed, so they only produce one way. And still, it's now producing the lowest cost of energy in France. So it's very efficient, but you have high upfront costs because of all the barrier. So then I think the reason why no one thought of this is that the hydropower industry is very conservative. They are building for 100 years, and they were looking into this, and then suddenly a crazy musician and his father are coming and thinking out of the box. And actually, my father, he used to say that he was inspired by the 2-horsepower outboard engine from Evinrude, which you just turn around instead of having gear for reverse. So yeah, and it all came together, and now we have lots of patents and a reliable solution. So it's very interesting.
Okay. Then I go over to Daniel. So Daniel, in Chile, which launched a long-term green hydrogen strategy, which is targeting 5% of the global production by 2030. So the coal power generation in UK has declined with more than 88% in the last 6 years. That is the 2012 to 2018. And renewable energy is filling this gap, adding double the capacity that natural gas did in the same period. So is this the movement to the right direction, or do you think we are still too slow? Because these numbers are very, very optimistic.
You're right. This sounds very optimistic. But if you look, for example, at China, they do the most regarding solar technology. This is fantastic. But at the same time, they are still building and planning new coal plants, and this is still going on in certain areas on our planet.
Yeah, exactly. That's
right. Yeah.
So the next was to Arne.
Mm-hmm.
So many investors we speak to, because I'm on the board of a lot of investment panels and groups and organizations, they always think when you talk about business on renewable energy or impact investment, they think that project or business which is doing something good for the environment or society goes at the cost of the profit. Is that also true for your business? That means the better it is for environment, the lesser profit they will have.
No, I don't think so. I would put it in opposite, actually, because we are studying making a tidal lagoon as a combination of flood defense and power production. So it both helps towards reducing coastal erosion and also flood defense because of sea raise and also more humidity, more rain, etc. So when the high tide meets a full river, it's a problem. If you make then a tidal lagoon or a barrier in this area, then you can control the water level and you can still empty the basin with the turbines. So by combining flood defense and power production, you can lower the cost, actually. So it still increases. But that said, one of the main reasons why this tidal range industry hasn't kicked off is exactly the environmental issue, and it's a bit technical, but in the estuary you have to respect the natural tidal cycle, because if you have a coastal lagoon, you have the beach must still be a beach, and the birds need the wetlands, etc. So, but with our Mullen turbine, we can pump and we can respect the environmental constraints. So I think
You're not harming any animals, Arne.
Well, we could hit one or two fishes, so that's definitely something that we are looking at. So our planned pilot project we will have artificial fish passing through the turbines, etc. So we will definitely focus on fish friendliness. That's an issue, and also how to avoid having like seals and mammals coming into the turbines.
Right.
So that's a challenge.
Thanks. I have a next question for Daniel. So what are the criteria of business and projects you look into before investing, right? So how do you select your investments in the fund? Because you invest globally, right, Daniel? So
Yes,
how does it happen?
That's correct. So first we look if they do something to produce or develop to fight climate change. This is one issue. Then we also look at the technology. Then we also look at the ESG rating or ranking of the companies. So we have a clear focus on the E, environment, but the S and the G, these two factors are also very important for us. And then on top of that, we analyze the company. We look at different qualitative factors, and we analyze the stock of the company. We do different kind of things.
That's it. So simple. would Tidetec also fit your criteria, like of investment? What do you need to know from Arne? What do you need to know from Arne?
We are having a business transaction in this.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think, guys? What do you need to know from Arne in order to decide whether Tidetec would be the right investment for you, for your fund?
So, two things about that. So first of all, we only invest in public companies. And the second point is that we have a clear focus on large and established companies. What is the rationale? The problems on our planet are global, and we need large companies which have the power to scale their solutions. We also need small companies and startups. This is important, but without the large companies which have the power to scale that, it will not work. So we have a clear focus. That is what we do. We can do it differently. We focus on established and large companies, listed companies, which have the power to scale their solutions.
Mm-hmm. Arne, what would you say to Daniel?
I would say that is exactly what we have experienced. It's a classical catch-22 because we are not big enough. But the bigger company, they are. It's dangerous to say, but I don't think they are innovative as the smaller one. So we have to make this play together in some way or another, and that's exactly what we are aiming at now. We have a very good relationship with the Norwegian hydropower company, Rainpower, and also Rainpower was recently bought by a big EPCI or a big energy company called Aker Horizon, and they also own our EPCI partner, Kværner. So it fits very well together. Then we have the large positive things from these companies, and we still have our innovative increasing. But we always wanted to be a bit bigger, to have the liquidity to just go as fast as possible to the target and not spend so much time on raising money.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the issues, what startups are facing, that you are innovative, you are great, but institutional money, or you are too small for the funds.
Yes, and also it's, Daniel, it's obviously about risk. Most of the risk is taken when you have a big company. So we have the risk for our technology is the market it's not an existing market. It's now coming because we can kickstart it by making it more feasible. And then you have the new technology that has to be proven. But to have it proven, then you need a pilot or a first project. And so what we do, we try, just as in hydropower, you have these micro hydropower stations, and we are trying to go as a stepping stone. We are building this first pilot project now in UK, a €5 million project about, and the next step is the bigger ones. And the biggest projects that we are now collaborating with will produce about 6 terawatt-hours a year in Mersey area. So that's quite something. But it's
So, this is something I have problems with understanding, because in the sector of impact, innovative, doing very well. And we had the guest in one of our previous shows, we had the guest, the head from EIB, European Investment Bank, who mentioned that they have put aside an amazing amount of money, 1 trillion euros for these kind of projects. But on other side, your business and your market is also performing well. Then how come that businesses like yours is having problems in finding finance?
It's partly because of the history. Because to put it short, when the power plant in France was built in '67, it had a huge impact because of the building method. We are now doing it modularly, so we have solved that issue. But anyway, it was a bad reputation during the construction period. It had environmental issues, but that was solved as soon as it started produce. So we had to convince the market that the environmental constraints are solved. And then the other thing is that, as I was talking about, we have to prove the technology. We have the proof of concept as a laboratory model, but we can't afford making the pilot project alone. So we have to go with the partners. And it's always being in the right spot from early seed into venture, and it's difficult in the beginning. You need to have a proper team, and you have to pay the team, and you have to raise the money, and blah blah. So it's kind of this catch-22, and most of the money are now. In Norway, lots of money are directed into floating wind, and our market is restricted to where you have high tidal range, like in UK, France, Asia, etc. Not in Norway, so we don't have this home market, except that we are now looking into aquaculture, where they need our pumping turbine. So that's another story. But but that said, we have had
floating wind. You mentioned floating wind.
Yeah.
What is that?
Floating wind. Yeah, it's strange. I'm so into it. Sorry, but that is wind power where it's too deep to have seabed fixed. So you divide the offshore wind into fixed seabed mounted on monopiles or other, and then you have floating on platforms and floating wind. So you remember, So we are a bit.
Arne, what's the website of your company? Because maybe some people are more visual, they want to see.
But I can
No, Arne had a presentation. I thought you had a slide, Arne, no?
Yes,
where it shows how it works.
I can share it with you. So just a second.
You can just tell it to the production. I think they will, which slide it is.
Just prepare, and I will ask Daniel a question meanwhile. So Daniel, I want to ask about innovation, because in order to create impact and returns, usually it's very innovative companies where you're investing, right? So how innovative are the companies where you invest? What role it plays in your investment? And maybe you can give 1 or 2 examples of concrete companies where you invest with the fund, so we know what type of companies your fund is investing.
Okay. So innovation is really key, and we look also it from a sector point of view. And here I would like to mention the solar technology. And if you or look at different research papers from the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany, you can see that the prices of solar cells, thin film technology, and also monopolar crystalline cells, the prices came down really much, dramatically, and which makes the technology much more competitive. On top of that, also the efficiency went up. And I would like to mention maybe a few companies. One of them is Enphase Energy. They are in the solar industry. They produce microinverters to convert electricity which is produced by photovoltaic, and then it has to be put into the grid. And they have a special technology with microconverters. They are leading the market with their technology. And we also invest for example, in a company in Norway called Tomra Systems. And they have solutions to recycle PET bottles or aluminium cans, things like that. Very smart solutions. And if you think about what's going on our planet, each minute on a global basis, we consume around 1 million PET bottles. These are two companies which do something which helps our environment and planet.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's crazy. You know, when you hear these statistics, it's always like, how can that be? You know,
Exactly.
How can we change that?
It's discouraging. I think Arne, your slide is ready, I think.
Yeah.
So
here you see the tidal lagoon. You have a coastal lagoon and you have an offshore lagoon, and you have on the lowest here you have the tidal barrier, the Laurence, built in 1967 in France. And down here you have turbines. So this is kind of the energy bridge that my father looked at. And here you have some turbines here. So you hold the water as the tidal head is going down, and then you let the water out through turbines. And afterwards you can close off and you wait until the head is, and then you fill through the same turbines again. And we were talking about about storage. And if you look at this offshore lagoon, you could even pump extra down so that you can use, this one is outside Liverpool, expected to be outside Liverpool, surrounding a wind farm, so that when it blows in the night and no one is cooking tea, then you can use the surplus energy to pump extra low or extra head, and then you can produce in the morning when the demands are there. So that's the kind of the idea. And as I told you about the flood protection, if you have a lagoon like this, you can protect this area, and or you can even have a barrier on a river so that you can protect the area if the river is going wild, and can pump and empty the river, although the spring tide is pushing into it. So that's mainly and normally you use a turbine like this that has more reverse efficiency, and our solution is like this, that we have a smaller, simpler turbine always facing in the right direction, because you rotate it like you see now. So you can rotate it so that you can, and by that you can increase production by 30%. And it looks like this, quite big. Low means big installations. This one is a 20 megawatt installation, or a rendering, as you can see, and this is how it looks. So it's quite big, and then you turn it when it's going in the opposite direction. So this is to have or you can go to our homepage, tidetec.com, and look more into it. We have a small video here showing this is our pilot plant in Newport in UK. It's a downscaled down to 2 meter, about 1 megawatt, and here you see the turbine and the turning device. Tidetec's core patents is covering this turning device and the sealing and etc. So that's mostly.
No, it's much more understandable, what
Yeah.
you were talking about.
Yeah.
I think it was a good idea to share.
So
Thank you.
yeah, this is where I grew up with my father. You can see we did an awful lot of funny things. He's now dead, but he had some successes by on this mobile crane, was selling in dozens, and he was earning so that he could spend his time doing what he wanted, and that was making technology that could be for the good for everyone into energy.
Okay. Thanks, Arne, for sharing. I'd like to jump to Daniel again and ask some questions related to finance. So last time we talked, you mentioned that you're actually looking at value and momentum of the stocks. What do you mean by that? Maybe you can explain your investment strategy.
Okay, so we use a multi-factor model, and we use, in fact, 3 factors. Momentum, which has a weight of 40%, value, also a weight of 40%, and quality, which has a weight of 20%. Regarding momentum, we use a system which is based on point and figure charts, and we look at different kind of momentums. So first of all, we look at the absolute momentum, then also the relative momentum relative to the stock index, to the country index, and the third one is the relative momentum relative to the sector. And what we want to do, we want to invest in great companies, but only if the stock of the company has positive momentum. We don't want to invest in a fantastic company and the stock has no momentum. So
that's correct.
So,
yes,
that's his secret of making such an amazing performance.
Momentum is always very important. Daniel, can you also share what kind of ranking system you are using for ESG? Because I know you are using one great system. And could you maybe please tell more about that, and what variables are you usually looking at, checking for underlying projects when you invest in?
Okay, that's a very good point. So there are different providers out there like MSCI, Dow Jones, FT, and others, and they all have their own kind of methodology and use numerical systems or descriptive techniques to do that. And then we decided to use the analysis of CSR Hub. What do? They combine all the available sources out there and put it together. They use more than 700 different sources for about 45,000 companies in 148 countries. And from our point of view, this is really an objective approach because everything is consolidated, and we use this rating or ranking from CSR Hub. And we also publish the rating on our website for all the investments we do.
Yeah. And another question to this rating, what happens if a company is downgraded? What do you do? Are you selling, or are you becoming an active shareholder? Are you disinvesting? So what are your action then if the ESG rating decreases?
Also a good point. So in case the ESG ranking or rating would come down dramatically, which so far never happened with one of our investments, we would go out. In case there's only a small adjustment, there's no action. What we do before we invest, we check the ESG ranking, of course, and we have a deeper look into the E. And we analyze different subsectors within the E factor, the environment. So, for example, we look at the management of the resources, the supply chain management, the general policy of the company, and we also publish a rating regarding the subsectors regarding E. And in case a company doesn't meet the threshold we set, we take action. We approach them actively. We get in touch with the board of directors of the company. We want to create an impact. They maybe increase the awareness or that they take action on specific topics.
That sounds good. So just to correct me if I'm wrong. So basically you are also analyzing the whole supply and value chain of the company, right? So how are they producing, how they're treating their employees and so on. So it's not only ESG rating, you're also analyzing the supply chain and value chain.
There are companies which are analyzing that. We use this research to evaluate whether we want to invest in the company or not. And if they don't meet our minimum criteria, then we take action, and we approach a company.
Okay.
And maybe
this
for those who want to learn more, on which site they could check more about this CSR Hub and your rating or what you're talking about, so maybe share with us. What is the website?
It's greentechportfolio.com.
Yeah,
that's easy.
Okay,
that's easy.
Thanks, then.
So, Arne, I wanted to ask you, so we have the goals of the Paris Agreement, which have to be fulfilled by 2030, and which makes projects like yours a very high urgency, because this is exactly what all the countries and the governments are looking for. So and because it's also good for the environment. So in your opinion, where does the hiccup lie?
I mentioned earlier, there are large upfront costs. That's a challenge. You have to, if you put a wind turbine in the sea or on land, you can put up one turbine and you start producing. Here you have to make the whole infrastructure, the whole impoundment, all the civil works, and put the turbines there and do all of it before you produce anything, almost like in hydropower. So that's one challenge. Our solution on that is starting small. We are now using a dry dock as a test bed so that we can fill and empty it with turbines, so that we can demonstrate it. But that's one challenge, especially for tidal range. I think that's our main. That's why we don't have. There are few and very large projects in the pipeline. So the timeline is there, but it's very important to start the learning curve and get the cost down. So that's why we are facing now this pilot project and doing stepwise process.
Okay, but don't you think that at this moment we have this ultra low interest rate in the market, and which are favorable for investments in the renewable energy sector?
Yeah,
and especially because renewable energy anyway very often has this high upfront cost. But okay, now I understand also why Tidal has even higher upfront cost than, for example, wind power station or other sources of renewable energy. So don't you think that the market is now favorable for you because of this low interest rate?
It is very in favor of us now. So looking for in the future, we are very optimistic. We have been struggling since the government, Westminster, hasn't let this kind of energy be a part of this subsidy system called the Contract for Difference. But hopefully they will start doing that now. The Welsh government has already announced that they will support it. So we are in negotiations with them, and so it will come, but it takes some time. So our goal is, our dream scenario is to have the Norwegian sovereign fund. They are now investing into infrastructure, not only listed bonds. So they could invest in such large projects together with Norwegian technology and UK local content would be a dream come true. So that's my mission.
And your infrastructure, especially the sustainable infrastructure of the Norwegian Sovereign Fund, is also based out of London. So,
yes, actually,
so that makes it
former CEO in the sovereign fund moved to London to start this investing. So he, I would like to meet him.
Yeah, it makes your life easy. Even it can't be more easier than this. Norway, UK, both are on the table.
Yeah, I think so. And then we make the best out of the sovereign fund that has, it's based on oil, so they should really feel a bit guilty to really invest in this.
And can I just add, because one of the things of the sovereign fund, but it's more a question I should ask the sovereign fund, not you, but since you represent your country, so they are also drilling not only in the land, but they're also drilling in the ocean.
Yeah,
in the water. So isn't this, so they are already, they do environmental studies and everything before they drill, and they are going deeper and deeper into the water. So what about then your business? Because can't you somehow make a transaction or a deal with them that you can use their infrastructure, their technology, which will make, because they have the money and they have the cash.
Yeah. We are looking at that. We had one wild idea. Why don't we use our turbine to as a storage facility and use one of the legs on the oil platform? I don't think that's viable, but that just as an example, if we can combine, we are already combining the expertise from the subsea industry because of corrosion, because of salt water, and the hydropower industry are used to fresh water, etc. So we are trying to merge this, and Aker is coming from the subsea industry. So obviously we see this, and also a new interesting thing is these energy islands that they know.
Exactly, I was going to say that these floating installations.
Yeah, on the big offshore wind farms, floating or seabed fixed, they are doing these artificial energy islands to have service and people can stay there to do service on the wind turbines, etc. And they can also have a harbor, and to have a protected harbor, you can make a lagoon.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can have a tidal enhanced power storage, and you can so when it's blowing and the surplus energy can be used as pumps, as I described earlier. So that's also something that we are looking into. It's very interesting.
Yeah, exactly, because it is already, how do you say, low-hanging fruit. It is already there.
Yeah, and now recently, just a couple of weeks ago, Ørsted said that they are planning their first energy island right outside Denmark, and there are some strong drives on this outside Holland, and it's very interesting. So when combining it with because tidal power is extremely predictable, but if you don't produce when you have the difference, then it's lost. So you have a kind of flexibility within 1 hour, but that's all. So it's half. It's predictable, but you can't produce exactly when you want. But if you combine this with storage, then you have a Kinder egg. Then you have the really smart solution. So that's also what we are looking into. And our favor is that our turbine is very good at pumping, not only turbining. So you can use one turbine both ways and also
exactly.
Pumping.
But can't you then ask one of these big guys to be your investor?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone with everyone here.
Yes, there are only one obstacle left to have, for instance, Aker, and that is the subsidy program for tidal range has to be included in the CFD program in UK. So now we are looking also into some project that can go without subsidies, and we can also combine. So to avoid this connection to grid, we can combine with the hydrogen production, etc., or go directly for a steel industry, for instance. In one of the ports, we can put a turbine in the port, and we can produce and
exactly.
to the steel industry making green steel. So that's also on the plate. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because they are a high energy intensive.
Yeah, now I'd like to jump in here. Daniel, I mean, you've heard that Arne facing his challenges with fundraising. How about you? Even though your fund is so amazing, I suppose there are also some challenges for you to grow, to scale up. So what are those? And maybe you can think how to overcome. What must happen that you can overcome the challenges?
So first of all, it's a question about the performance, of course. And we have a focus on transparency. We show the rationale which are behind our investments. And we see this also as partnerships with the investment partners we have. Yeah. And it will grow over time. Yeah. We are very optimistic about that.
But I mean, financial regulation or institutional investors, big banks, are they easily jumping into the fund, or like what are they saying if they don't invest? You know, why? What are the reasons not to invest in such impactful fund?
Especially now, it is such a hot topic. I mean, everybody in the financial sector is now talking about impact, sustainability.
Yeah. So there are always different reasons, and they are different. I cannot comment on the different rationales of these potential investors. So.
Yeah. But what are the challenges, you know, also for other impact investing funds? So why it's so difficult for some banks to invest in external impact investing funds? Maybe they don't have their own, but they could invest in the funds which are out there.
And which already have a track record and a performance.
Yeah. It's maybe it's also about the transparency of the different strategies out there that investors are aware. Also the different investment approaches. So maybe this is also a question about the transparency and awareness of all the different strategies out there.
Yeah, because, you know, it's I mean, I'm also ex-banker, you know, I work there. So usually the reasons are because it's not the fund of the bank, then they are not earning of external funds. If they are not on the distribution list, if they are not having the external funds as partners and also getting some commission, right? So these are still the challenges in the impact investing industry, even though there are many with track record, with good performance in terms of impact and returns. It's still not yet the new normal.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the way where we are also working on the policies. So advising or supporting governments to create the policies. I think it was last week or the week before, we had somebody from the banking who said that the people should really, no, it was not at our program. It was I was at the meeting with one of another Nordic. He owns a couple of banks, and he mentioned that the banks really now should watch out that the regulations are moving in so fast that banks are still not aware of it. They should really start watching out for the changing regulations. So the government regulations are, especially in the Nordic, are getting faster and quicker on this topic. So I think that will push also the banks to move more towards projects like that of Arne or funds like that of you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Would you agree to that?
Yeah. We see that the regulations are changing quite much in the European Union regarding the fund industry, which I think is very good. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
But are you also obliged to follow the regulations of EU, or Switzerland is still lagging behind?
From my point of view, there is a potential to catch up regarding Switzerland with the EU. But I heard it is going to take some time, but it's on its way. But I don't want to comment too much on that.
Yeah.
I know, the financial people are always very careful. I understand that, Daniel. So everyone, just go to the website which was mentioned, and you can find more information.
Exactly.
Because again, it's
and Arne, because you also must be facing the same kind of issues, because Norway is also not a member of EU, but you are doing business with a ex-EU country. Maybe you infected it that UK also now left the EU.
Yeah.
So, but are you also keeping the regulations or keeping in mind the regulations that are pushing in by EU, like the Green Deal?
Yeah, we are part of a EU project now called Fibergy, and that's a EU project, and we are very aware that soft funding from EU is very favorable. Unfortunately, UK did this Brexit thing, so it's a problem with the pilot in UK. But that said, Norway is a part of the EEA system, EOS, as we said in Norway, and that makes us we can apply for the European funding, etc. So that's very good. And Norway and UK has always been tight collaborators, so we are always feeling very welcome in UK. So I don't know if I answered your question actually, but we are very happy with the dealing with UK. Yes.
But for example, I was also thinking of, since you're focused on tidal energy, Portugal, for example, also has a lot of possibilities or options. So, but then Portugal is in the EU. Would you have to fulfill another regulations criteria, or it is the same?
No, it's the same. We have also some activity in France. There are a port there that is going to be modernized in a green way with a small tidal range application with our turbines. So we are also dealing with France, and after all, they have this good Laurence project as well. And Portugal doesn't have that tidal head. That is very important, that you have the highest possible tidal head. So most in Europe is France and UK. On the west coast of UK is 10 to even higher, and also Normandy and Brittany is very good. Portugal is a bit less. So
guys, we have little time left, but I have still 2 questions for you. So the first is like going to personal level. You know, you are such great experts in what you do in renewable energy. How do you implement it in your personal life? Maybe your houses are heated with solar panels or whatever energy, you know. So how do you bring this into your personal life, and how other people maybe can follow your example?
Especially Arne, because they make their money from selling oil.
Yeah. Well, I changed to electric car 5 years ago. I'm very happy with it. And I'm very thankful for the Norwegian government that they took away the high taxes on cars, only on electric cars, so I could afford one. I'm very happy with that. I try to do all these small things, and I have a 16-year-old daughter. She's so into renewables, the climate change, everything. So sometimes she even teaches me also. So I think then maybe I've done something right. Also, my older son and daughter are also into this, but she is very eager. Yeah, I think we all should try to do what we can, and my mission is to try to really make this. I'm sure I will succeed on that, but to make this happen with the contribution that we can. I mean, this tidal range can support 15% of UK annual energy need, so it's huge. But we have to take one step at a time, and now we're facing this pilot project, and that has been a goal for a very long time. We just need to raise some more money, but I'm sure we can do that. Just 2 days ago, we got a message from Innovasjon Norway, the public subsidy organization for innovation, and they support our first part of the pilot project. So we are getting closer.
Exactly.
All good luck with that, of course, Arne.
Yeah. Thank you.
Keep us posted. Daniel, what about you? How do you implement your knowledge on renewable energy in your personal life?
Yeah. So we did two things, which exchange the heating system and use biogas to heat the house. The second thing we did, we changed the windows. That means we increased efficiency and need less energy to heat the building.
That's great. That's great.
Yes.
I think many people can do these things. They're just not aware of that, or there are always obstacles. It's not that easy to change, and that if surroundings would help, the supply of that and advertisement. Oh, you can change your heating system very easily. 1, 2, and you can save a lot of energy. That would be much easier, of course, to change.
And that's what Arne also mentioned, that the Norwegian government in that way has been very, very proactive.
Yeah.
Especially with the electric cars.
Absolutely.
And just a small detail. I downloaded an app for my charging of the car, and it automatically finds the lowest priced electricity to charge, because when I plug it in the evening, it has lots of hours to as long as it's filled up 8 in the morning if I'm going for a long trip, and then it decides. So it's a small thing, and it makes the grid more flexible.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
And there are so many small things.
So this is, I count it like call to action from you guys to everyone who is watching us to do small steps in your life and whatever you do, of course.
And it makes a difference. It really makes a difference.
We run out of time.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very, very much.
Thank you guys for joining us. It was amazing having you today. Thanks for sharing. And maybe one little thing, Arne, I'm not sure if you're already on Chamomile. Daniel is our honor member, so you are also very welcome to join, and we will upgrade your membership, of course.
Yeah,
so you can use it at full power.
And the payment of today's for participating is a bottle of Aquavit. So I'm waiting for it.
Okay.
Especially the golden one.
Yeah. The light, yeah. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come here. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Yeah, so today the show is almost at the end. Maybe just a little reminder that next week we have the course on 25th and 26th. Profitable business with impact in action. So to all, especially young people, startups, entrepreneurs, please join us, and you can all find all the information on chamomile.ch.
And the next week's program is again a very hot item, that is how to involve youth into climate action. So see you guys again on next Friday.
Thanks for watching us.
Thanks.
With impact.
Bye.
Welcome to Swiss Impact with Banerjis. I'm Svetlana.
And I'm Ben.
In Season 2, we will be traveling around the globe, out of Switzerland, and bring amazing leaders from businesses, thought leaders, political leaders, of course investors and experts.
We're working at implementing and realizing all the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, better known as SDGs.
And they are also making profit.
Hello, I am Amina Garib Fakim, and I'm the 6th President of the Republic of Mauritius.
My name is Parvati, and I'm a musical artist and the founder and CEO of Parvati Foundation.
I'm Michael Lichtenstein. I'm an entrepreneur here in Liechtenstein. I'm running on one side a financial services company.
Hundreds of deals a month. We are seeing more things happening in this impact world. And this is because, look, the world is changing.
So join us to discover impact investing ecosystem.
See you every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Central European Time at Swiss Impact with Banerjis.
See you on Friday. Act with impact.